Welcome back to another episode of Spectator Mode. I'm your co-host, Neil Strebig. With me, as always, is Donald Double D DeCray.
You always make it sound so hype, man.
I have to, man. It's exciting.
I guess for you, maybe it is. I
I'm
don't know.
hyped, man. I just got to work. I'm hyped to be here. I hope you're hyped to be there. I know,
uh
you know,
no. That's not true. I am. I'm very excited to be here. And I think we've
you
got
got the
some good
shirt
stories
unbuttoned
today.
already, man. Staying a
Oh.
while.
I guess so. We're relaxing after a long day at work. We're having monitoring visits, which is code for I got to be on top of my shit at work. So, hey, this is a nice way for me to unwind, come home and do this stuff that I like doing. So, I'm excited.
Good, good. Speaking of unwind, we got a couple doozies for y'all today. We got some Daredevil news with the Netflix actor Charlie Cox. We're going to talk a little bit about Dragon Age 4 and some new Mass Effect news. A little bit about Kickstarter as well, send some records as far as video games are concerned, which is pretty cool there. And of course, we're going to talk about probably the hottest game out right now at this very moment. And everyone's probably going to be hyped buying it this weekend and playing it. Probably going to increase divorce rates in America as well. Elden Ring.
That'll be an interesting statistic is seeing the number of reported divorces post release. Yeah. Charlie Cox has confirmed that he will return to the Daredevil again in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He has not confirmed the project. We have very little details to go off of, frankly, so it's a lot of conjecture. But at the very least, we do know that there is some other project in the works after, minor spoiler, No Way Home, his character appeared in a very cameo type role, right? Not a center of that at all. But it's there,
Spoilers.
which
Yeah.
brings into the question one, does that mean that they're accepting the Netflix series as part of the MCU canon, the larger MCU canon? And two, besides Charlie Cox, we could also have the conversation of what other characters from the Netflix shows might we see come onto the big screen or be moved over to the MCU, which I'll throw in right now. Jessica Jones. I'd love to see her get upgraded to the big screen. I think she absolutely has the chops for it, and I loved her storyline all the way through. Great character. Happy to see it. And David Tennant was an absolutely terrifying Purple Man.
He was great. The second season, Jessica Jones, I didn't quite care for. I don't think it was anywhere close as strong as the first. But again, villain makes the hero kind of thing, and he Tennant killed it in that first season.
Absolutely did.
But I thought the casting for all the defenders was phenomenal. So if all of them come back, great. If we only get Charlie Cox, also cool with that because I personally loved his Matt Murdock. I thought he did a great job, and yeah, I think it's good news all around. I think that is one of those kind of cheeky moments in No Way Home that I think every fan like you kind of knew you were then in for like cinematic history and an amazing film at that point. I think because
Yeah.
it happened so early on, you're just like, all right, this is such a high point. Like, there's no way it goes down from here, and it didn't let down at all. It just got better and better.
Well, it was
So yeah,
great too because like my fiance had some sense of the Daredevil character a little bit, mostly because I've talked your ear off about that type of stuff before. But like it might be one of those moments too that kind of distinguishes at this point longer time fans from newer fans to the franchises and to the characters. Because like he caught it, and that was very much like a whatever moment for her. Where for me, I'm flipping out because I'm like, Jesus, they really brought Charlie Cox in. Like we have Daredevil is right here. He's sitting there. They're having a conversation. Like for me, that was a huge moment. I was like geeking out. Now maybe to be fair, she's not nearly as invested in the characters as I am to begin with, so I might be underselling a little bit. But it seemed like one of
well,
those
you
things
also
that
not.
like if you've been there for it, you were there for it, man. Like I
Yeah.
was fucking all about that moment. Loved
Well, you
it.
understand the fact you wore Daredevil Charlie Cox underoos to the screening, so
Oh man, but no, and I think the Daredevil show was also it was their linchpin of the Defenders, right? Like it's what was the first one to come out. Spinoff of the Punisher came from that as well. Like it was the Netflix version of the Iron Man movie that
you
kicked off
haven't
their
you haven't
franchise.
watched Hawkeye yet, have you?
Oh,
Okay, never mind then. So not spoiling anything, but
oh, you're
it connects
teasing
with
me.
what we're talking about. Yeah.
Does
So
it?
I'm definitely
Oh
teasing. Yeah, but
no.
it connects to a couple things. So yeah.
Well,
So
get my
either way,
mind
I
off
think
of
we
this
are
before
going
I
to
start
see
digging down
we are going to see
holes.
more characters. I think hopefully in some capacity. And again, I think the biggest thing, yes, it's geeky to follow these characters and see the actors, but like I really think that the casting for those Netflix shows, Marvel in general and comic book movies, I think in general too, um, they hit. I mean, it's the batting average is almost 100%. There's very few misses. You have
Yeah.
bad movies, but I think the casting across the board and pretty much every single one, DC and Marvel, and some of the indie ones as well, is phenomenal. It hasn't. I can't recall any comic book inspired movie that was like, oh man, that's a bad cast. We have the Heath Ledger stuff, you have the Batfleck stuff. You can bicker about this or that, but ultimately, it's not like anybody put in an awful performance. It might be an awful movie like Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern, but
Green
he didn't do
Lantern,
a bad
yeah.
Hal Jordan or Green Lantern.
Aquaman comes to
It was just a
mind.
bad movie.
Um, Amber Heard, I wasn't exactly thrilled with her portrayal
As
of the
Mary, yeah,
character.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's more the movie though. I felt like too because they just wanted to kind of put her up on pretty
Yeah.
lady and go. But I mean, Nicole Kidman in that she kills it. The dude that plays Black Manta, he kills it.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like
Momoa
in
does
my
a pretty
head
good
too. Like,
job.
I'll be honest, like my least favorite of all the Spider-Man women was MJ as played by Kirsten Dunst. I wasn't a fan. I didn't feel a good chemistry. I thought she was too much damsel in distress and too demanding of like, oh, I need more attention. And like completely unconcerned for Peter's needs and his situation. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
she was
Mary
unaware
Jane.
of it,
That's
but
Mary Jane
like,
in a nutshell.
so I don't like the character maybe as much as like Gwen Stacy, for example. And we've had this conversation in the past. And at the same time, like the question is like, is my dislike of the character based on the character or based on the actress? I don't know. And I think you're making an interesting point that like the actors really did the best with what they were given. And while that doesn't mean everything was a smash hit or that every performance or character was maybe the best in the world, it wasn't necessarily the actor's fault because they're working with what they get to a certain extent. And that, what could she have done? Could she, everything I'm complaining about in terms of that character had nothing to do with the acting ability and everything to do with the way that character was written in those original, in the Raimi trilogy movies. You know what I mean? Like, so it's hard to come down on her. So I don't know. I think you make some good points. I think you make some good points in terms of the casting overall being strong, and hopefully more of these actors get picked up and get, I think, some of the recognition they deserve on the big screen, besides just what they've seen on streaming services and stuff in the past.
But moving on, as far as streaming, not sure if it's a good segue or not, but
Sure.
we talked about a lot. As you guys know, Mass Effect, both of ours, one of our favorite franchises
Yes.
of all time. I'm not sure how you feel about Dragon Age, but BioWare's, well, boss, I guess. I'm not sure what its official title is, president, CEO, whatever it may be. But Gary McKay of BioWare did announce that Dragon Age 4 and Mass Effect 4, or technically Mass Effect 5, I guess, depending on how you look at it,
Right. Whether you count
are
Andromeda
both
or not. Yeah.
are both in development and well on the way. He talks more about Dragon Age more so than Mass Effect. Mass Effect kind of just confirms what they've already said a couple previous times, and a couple of times I think we've already talked about on the show that it's coming along. You can expect some news soon. He teases a lot more about Dragon Age, and with Dragon Age 4, he definitely talks about expanding on what they basically built from the original game, Origins, and then Inquisition. So again, I'm actually not sure if you can play Dragon Age or not. I know Evan, who was on the show previously, I know he's a big fan, but have you played?
So I have played a little of one of the Dragon Ages. I bought it, I downloaded it. It had some compatibility issues with my computer, so I haven't played much. I think it was Dragon Age Inquisitions, I want to say. And like for its part, I think it does it fills its role very, very well, right? Like it has almost what would be considered these days like an old school character builder, the way you can level up with the different talent trees and stuff. It's like, Skyrim-esque a little bit, like in that kind of vein of things. What I think needs mention here, what BioWare does well in Mass Effect, and one of the things we talked about is sort of choice, consequence, storytelling. Those options are also on display in Dragon Age with the way they tell those stories. Now, I think the concern, of course, for me is right away, are we just milking franchises? Right? Like great franchises. Mass Effect, I think, provides a better example of this because I'm more familiar with the franchise overall. First, second, and third games, in my opinion, each one better than the last. Updates that they made to gameplay and stuff were needed in terms of keeping them on par with that generation's releases and other comparable games of the time. And then Mass Effect Andromeda came out. And this is where the name discrepancy comes from of whether they're currently producing Mass Effect 4 or 5, because the 4th installment in the franchise was Andromeda, and that shit the bed, right?
Yeah.
Like, there were bug
It's
issues
bad.
all over the place. The story wasn't nearly so good. Consequences of things were very, it was just, the whole thing felt very just like, we're going to take Mass Effect as a title and just throw something together using that title to make more money.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a terrible game. It definitely wasn't up to the snuff of the rest of the game, especially when the third Mass Effect game released in 2012. Andromeda came out, what, 5 years later in 2017?
Yeah.
I think fans were
It kind
super
of,
hyped for the next thing to come in the franchise, right? Like, they were really pumped,
yeah.
and it did not deliver.
Well, it kind of comes to your point of, what do developers owe? Are fans too impatient? Andromeda did a lot of things well. I think exploration, getting back to kind of streamlining things that worked well in one and advancing that, as far as taking kind of the Pathfinder, exploring, or the Mako instead, exploring a world. The issue wasn't kind of like the characters, and the cast of characters was very much like Mass Effect 1.5, not even 2.0. It was just like, okay, you've definitely just taken the molds and barely even built off of them after a couple of years. I think that was a letdown. Plus, the weapon system was ridiculous because you could pick a class, but then upgrading weapons was basically stupid. You basically had to sit there and stay with the gun you didn't like, and hopefully you get the resources to build a new one. And it created, I felt, a very awkward farm system. But either way, I think BioWare has shown enough that they're well aware of what the fans want. They want to definitely expand. We saw the Liara kind of teaser in the last one, time they talked about the new Mass Effect. So I think if they stay in the Shepard universe, regardless of what they do with Andromeda, there's enough there. They can make a great game, even if it is carrying on with Shepard, even if it's expanding in the aftermath, whatever. And I think a lot of fans, especially after Legendary Edition came out, and a lot of new fans too, are going to be willing to see that.
Well,
Dragon Age, I'm not as excited for. I didn't like Inquisition. I think it's one of the worst games I ever played ever. Feel free to bash me in the comments on that one. I thought it sucked. I thought the gameplay was ass.
I didn't get into it deep
And
enough
all
to
the Dragon
have
Ages, I feel
a
like,
well-formed
have been a
opinion.
letdown for me, at least.
Really?
I think the decision choices is great. I think if they're, tall tale games, maybe I'd enjoy them more. Playing wise, I hated the first one. It's a linear fucking game. It's like Final Fantasy 13. I like just walking in one straight line. This is so much fun. I'm so glad I made an RPG, cough, cough. Second one, none of the characters really enjoyed. It was kind of like whatever. And the third one was just, Inquisition. Everyone hyped it up. I didn't do it.
It's
I was like, what am I
interesting because
playing?
I think it's one of the more beloved ones in the franchise overall.
I didn't know if I was supposed to be playing, overhead Diablo style and just kind of like a dungeon crawler, or if it was supposed to be an RPG. I didn't like it. I thought it was really shitty. The intro,
Very
like
interesting.
I played basically the first like 4 hours of that game, and I took it right back. I bought it on sale. I'm like, thank God I only spent $20 on this, and I gave me $8 back GameStop.
I mean, I think I have like fewer than 10 hours invested in it, so I really didn't get deep into the game, unfortunately. You know what I mean? Like, I own it. It's still installed and on my list of things to get to at some point. But I don't know. I think my larger concern is like, it's been a minute, right? Like Mass Effect and Andromeda dropped in 2017. It has been as long since Andromeda released as it was between Andromeda and Mass Effect 3's release. It's been 5 years between both. Mass Effect 3 crushed it. Like, the Metacritic scores for Mass Effect 3 put it at 93 out of 100. Every reviewer put it at like 9 out of 10 or better. Like, absolutely crushed it. Phenomenal reviews, awards, the whole thing. Like, it did well. Andromeda, which was the next entrant, average scores, Metacritics are like 70s. 6s and 7s for other, publications and stuff like
It was
that.
bad.
And they didn't win any game. And like, the only thing that I think that they won was most like anticipated or most like wanted game or something like that, which like obviously is not based on the actual product once it's delivered. And so we're looking at a similar 5-year time gap, talent moving on, aging out of the industry, going and pursuing other options. Like, as much as I love Mass Effect, call me lukewarm on this one until we get more concrete information, because there's really not a lot to go on quite yet.
Fair. You definitely did more doom and gloom with it on that one, man. But
Well, I'm sorry to be doom and gloom guy all the time, but
yeah, it's I'm gonna start introducing
someone's
you
got
to
to
Double
be.
D, just Donald Doom and Gloom DeCray.
Yeah, right.
But no. On a bit happier news, and maybe
Nope,
happier, I guess.
not
in the
happy at
sense
all.
of-
Nope.
of games.
It's
So
for me. It's not happy. You hit them with this, and we'll see who they agree with. I'm curious on this one. Go
okay,
ahead.
all
What's
right.
up? Tell me what's up.
Eco Partners. I might mispronounce that. Who knows? But anyway, Eco Partners announced that Kickstarter broke some records, branching off of record-breaking 2020 as far as money raised for video games and also the amount of titles. So 2020 was about the same as far as money raised. It was about 24 million. But last year did raise money for 441 titles compared to 429 in 2020. Both are, significant all-time highs in comparison to previous years. And I think it is a bit interesting that, yeah, video games are seeing a channel for this and are getting significant funds for indie titles. They say, if you and I want to make a game, we're going to make our own Mass Effect game. Here's a Kickstarter. Give us some money. Let us make something awesome.
And so
But you
here's
don't. You're not
here's
happy.
here's the doom and gloom of it for me, right? I don't like that this is becoming like a normalized way of getting these projects done, because I really believe that like in like a healthy economy and stuff like that, good ideas should have their space. And this crowdfunding, this like we're paying for things to be developed, and then hopefully they're good. We hope that the projects we support are going to be great projects when they get done. And I would be very interested to see basically how successful these games are after they get funded. Is my first question. My second one is like, I don't like the increasing burden being placed on consumers essentially to prop up the industry. In my opinion, prop it up. You know what I mean? We're getting nickel and dimed in games already with piecemeal releases. You're buying content. It's not even like DLCs, right? Like you're buying like missions and stuff in Hitman come out. You're buying outfits for your characters. Things come out buggy and not complete from AAA studios. And my question becomes like, look, there's clearly no lack of talent. There's clearly no lack of ideas. Why do we keep getting derivative BS, things that just keep milking franchises and all that crap, when you're telling me there's 400 plus games on Kickstarter that people would love to see, and you're going to give me another freaking Call of Duty? Really? I really need the next FIFA or the next Madden. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't like that we're not able to see these projects get the funding, the attention they deserve from actual game studios, and instead they're getting funded through fans and consumers, which, like, speak with your money. It's nothing against, I think, the consumers. I think the bigger issue is why this is becoming the standard for people to get funding and actually realize these dreams and these ideas. That I don't like.
Well, I'll be the doom and gloom. I mean, most people's credit scores with student loans, it's not great to get a loan, man.
I'm doom and gloom guy. Don't bring me more
no.
down.
No, I mean,
You're
I
really
think that's
going over the low blows here, man.
no, but I mean, I think that's part of it. I mean, Kickstarter was basically created as an alternative to that, not to get too in the weeds about reality and everybody's, increasing debt and
I mean, it's a
whatnot.
news show. Let's
But
talk about the
it
news.
definitely
Yeah.
becomes then, hey, yeah, that's the alternative, and we don't talk about why this is in place, even though it was essentially created to be a short-term fix.
Mhm.
That being said, though, I mean, I don't think that I think it'd be interesting comparison to see how many of these games, get picked up on what's Microsoft's game share? Well, Game Pass,
Game Pass, yeah.
and kind of get the big cash out for that. How many see a sequel? How many basically expand off of this? I would like to see kind of those numbers of second phase rather than just getting across the finish line. But from a personal standpoint, the last story I worked on when I was with York Daily Record back in Central PA was actually father and son that had a Kickstarter for their game. And they basically created a turn-based game, Mogord's Tower, on Steam. And the guy's son basically, had the idea. He helped with the code, but basically his son took across the finish line. And they wouldn't have been able to do that without the Kickstarter. And how excited those two were to just see their creation be able to come to life. I mean, that's what that's all about. So I don't care if it's 400 games, if it's fucking 1,000 games, or if it's 40 games. I think it's a great thing that people are at least supporting their friends and family, neighbors, whatever, with their creative projects. And as a creative myself, it's cool. I mean, I hope when we keep going with this podcast, I'm sure there'll be a point in time to where we're going to have to ask you guys to give us money to help expand. And like, I hope you guys have as much fun watching as we have as much fun putting into it.
Money?
Yeah, I'm sure we want to expand and whatnot. I mean,
right?
Who knows? But like, I'm sure there comes a point in time where it's like, yeah, like whatever. My point is, I hope you guys enjoy putting money towards something you love, and knowing that happiness does come through. Even you may not hear it, or you may not see it, or it may just come through in the comments as well. It's there. It definitely is. Don't ever get that mistaken, especially with Kickstarters and the genuine nature of seeing, your dreams come to life or passion projects come to life. It's very important.
Well, that's interesting. I give you a lot of credit because I think looking at the human element behind it, touching on some of the stuff we mentioned before, and how happy it makes people just to be able to realize their dreams, their projects. I don't really have a counter argument to that. I don't like the state of the industry. I don't like the trends and monetization in the industry. I don't like the way I feel there's so few truly new titles coming out. A lot of things are, we just talked about Mass Effect coming out again. We talked about Dragon Age coming out again of like, are these going to be really genuine installments in the franchises? Are they going to be derivative slop? I don't know, but none of that should really, it's tainting my opinion, maybe unfairly to the platform.
I mean, think about Mario and Mario Strikers, Mario Tennis. It's milking all the same stuff. It's all the Final Fantasy games. Is it not the same stuff? Like, you love the franchises, you go. There's deviations and variants, if you will, but it's all relative, man. The franchises change. You have good ones, you have bad ones.
You're telling me I'm getting old, is what I'm hearing.
Good experience.
You're telling me I'm getting old, and I've played too many games. I've logged too many hours. I'm getting to that point of like, where's something new? I'm turning into like this anime character that's lived 100 years, 1,000 years, and just like, I just want to feel, just want something new in my life. So,
oh my gosh.
I guess that brings us to our final story for the day is Elden Ring, talking about things potentially being new and or derivative. So Elden Ring is published by From Software. It's the next game they're releasing. It's from the publishers of the Dark Souls franchise, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Bloodborne, all very well received games, known to have a certain style, right? And so if we're talking about derivative and whether or not they are derivative of each other, they're known for being punishing games that highly value mechanical skill and like learning and strategy and like playing the games well, dodging and stuff like that. Like, you don't have giant health bars, you don't have unlimited regen. That's not a thing. And it's a style of game that I argued, I think before, that this is like a newer version of Mario where like you get hit like once or twice and you're dead. We're changing a lot. So there's big differences, right? But behind the combat systems, but in terms of the health bar and the lethality is similar. So in some ways for me, this is kind of an old school revival, but it's been very well received. Very well received. And when we're talking about like Elden Ring specifically, the hype is insane. It's already won 3 awards for being the most anticipated game coming out. Already won 3 games. Reviews coming out on this game are starting to hit. Time of recording, just for clarity, is the day before the game is released. Everything is loving this game. Like, there is not one single score that I'm seeing that is below a 9 out of 10. The lowest score is a 4 out of 5.
Low score. That's something I just read. So.
But a 4 out of, at least from what I'm seeing, like a 4 out of 5 is the lowest, which would equate to an 80. I guess there's something they weren't super fan of. But like everything else just seems super excited for this game to launch tomorrow. And I am too. Like, I've played the Dark Souls games and I've had my ass handed to me. I've gotten pissed and walked away. I've never thrown a controller, but I've walked away once or twice because it kicked my ass so much. So I'm excited for this. And I don't know, maybe this makes me flip-floppy now. I'm feeling like, as I'm saying this out loud, that I'm excited for this game that comes from the studio that makes hard games. I don't know. But 4-player co-op. We can play together maybe. Hey, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I have to get a PC. I don't think it's crossplay.
I don't think it's crossplay, actually. We should look into that. I don't know. Are you going to play it?
But I might get it. I haven't played in the Dark Souls games, so I don't know how hard that stuff is.
Oh, I'm so disappointed. I'm such a hippie.
Sci-fi stuff.
What
I like about this one that has me interested is that with the reviews, they made the comparison to Breath of the Wild open world, because Breath of the Wild did do a great job with open world compared to other open world games. Sorry for the repetition, but the point of exploring and the point of curiosity of like, oh shit, that's a giant mountain. There's lava coming over from there. I want to go check that out. And then being rewarded for your curiosity and exploration. I think that's what makes Breath of the Wild stand alone in that kind of genre. And from what I've seen the reviews, Elden Ring does that. It kind of goes a little bit even further, where there's actually no waypoints, nothing else with missions. You could basically start a mission chain and completely miss it if you don't actually talk to people. You basically start going ones you're not even aware of just based on your interactions as a character. And I think that's an amazingly awesome, complex, and beautiful component in an RPG game. So that I definitely want to explore. The thing I'm worried about is sometimes with these games, and I kind of come back to like Elder Scrolls, sometimes it gets too in the weeds with the fantasy lore and just like there's nothing connection. There's so much of
That's
like
interesting you say
Odin's
that.
beard and nutsack in a wretched goblin's tank, and it's just like what the
Well,
fuck? Like none of that makes any
and
sense.
so
Like,
you're
like
aware that George R.R. Martin participated in the
yeah, I
writing of
know. He
this,
sat
right?
there on his fucking crusty ass and finally produced something after getting all his ducats. Yeah,
Ooh, dude, that's
you know.
harsh too.
I'm sorry. I don't like the guy that he teased like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. Like you
Ah,
make your money. That's cool, man. Like him and J.K. Rowling, it's just like just make your money and just be happy and don't.
I
If
think
you're
that
a public eye, go
you're
be
comparing like
Goblin.
apples and fucking boulders. It's
Well,
two
like
completely
you went
different
no. I mean,
things.
J.K. Rowling would just constantly stay in like the limelight. I feel like R.R. Martin was just kind of like hanging on the fringes, but being like a little. Be
My
happy you made a bunch
issue,
of money.
well, because like my issue with J.K. Rowling is sort of the revisionist history she's taken towards things of like even her own stories of like, yeah, that character was gay when it was one of those like it was unstated. So is it a true retcon? No, because it's not like going against specific things we were told previously. But it
Yeah.
also wasn't anything that was ever established before. So it's like if she wanted to say like, sure, if you interpret this character as being gay or whatever, whatever kind of orientation, sexuality, trans, like whatever you want to interpret the characters as, go for it. It's a fucking fantasy world. Like, have fun, take it however you want to take
Yeah.
it.
Cutting you off on the Harry Potter. You're gonna get in the weeds, man. You're gonna get in the
Look, I don't like the way she's revisionist. George R.R. Martin's biggest issue, frankly, is the lack of production. But the things he does produce are really good.
That's very true.
Right? Like the ending
I
to
read
Game
the
of
first Game of
Thrones.
Thrones book. It was very good.
It is really good.
I-
All the books are good. The ending of the franchise had nothing to do with him because he didn't write it. You know what I mean? Like he was consulted for it, but like it's not like he
Yeah,
wrote
that's true.
the
That's
TV
true.
series. So
I hate might be displaced. You're right. You're right.
I'm just saying he wrote, as far as I understand too, like to be clear on this, like your concern though seems grounded because what he wrote seems to be the mythos, right? Like the larger story of the world, how it was created, like what's going on behind the scenes, not the actual character story that we're going to see when we play through it in the campaign, but sort of like the larger elements that are there in the background that sort of are driving and tying this world together.
The whole divine tree in the middle of the map, basically.
Right, exactly. Like literally, yes, exactly right. So it does bring that interesting question of like we know he can write these deep, complex worlds and characters and everything else. How well does that translate to the medium of a video game?
Yeah. And that's what I'm worried about. And seeing some of the gameplay footage during the beta and stuff too, it just seemed like, you have basically a giant spider with like a baby's head or like a demon's like mask and shit. It's just kind of like, okay, that seems like a smorgasbord of a lot of stuff that I don't know if it's working or not. And like combat seems so crazy, I can't even pick up all the details that you're going. But I want to like get in the weeds and like again, maybe my hesitation, maybe not buying it as soon as it comes out and waiting. Just the character class names make me mad.
The character class names.
Yeah, vagabond, warrior, hero, bandit, astrologer, prophet, samurai, prisoner, confessor, and wrench. And it's just kind of like, why can't you just make like the vagabond's basically your go-to soldier class? You have a warrior and a vagabond, but basically both the swordsmen. So it's just like, why can't you just make regular fucking classes? Like the prisoner is
Wait,
basically
this is your gripe on the whole thing? is the naming of the classes?
Health, so like he can heal he can heal himself. Just why are you making it a prisoner if all it's saying has like freaking arcane magic? Like it's so stupid. It's just like just simplify it. Just simplify it.
Well,
it's stupid.
They're not exactly
like,
character
the thief class. Truly, the bandit's not even a thief class. It's like you're a bandit, but like you're a pseudo kind of archer. You're not even a fucking straight rogue. Like, what are you doing?
I can't believe this is what you're hung up. I mean, because they're not exactly classes, are they? These are. It's like Divinity Original Sin too, right? Where like you put your party together and like you have people. And these are more like titles or taglines of characters that you can play as. Right, like it's not like an actual
build your class around that kind of thing. It's your starting point. I know, I get that. It's
right,
just,
like it's like you came
you're
in.
Still gonna build out to your strengths at a certain point. I'm not gonna put a prisoner if he has a 1 health, and I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna put all my fucking points in the first 60 hours.
It's like Path of Exile. Path of Exile is the perfect example of what we're talking about because if you've ever played the game, the skill tree is a circle, like literally a circle. And the way it works is there's different points in the circle where you start, and different parts of the circle have access to different things. Like, this side has health, this side has like dexterity or mana or whatever. And so basically, like, your starting class determines where you are. So certain things will be closer to you than other ones. So you start with like a warrior, you're going to be closer to like the health side of things and all the tanky stuff and like the strength to like bulk up fast. You start with a mage, you're going to be on the casting side of things. So you're close to all of those nodes. In theory,
those names make great sense to me as far as what the attributes pertain to. That makes so much sense, bandit with like a pseudo like basically a third warrior class. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I have IGN's thing up right now, just to give you an idea. The bandit's strength is a 9. The warrior's strength is a 10. The vagabond, which I don't know if anybody knows what a fucking vagabond is, but it's basically a hobo, is a fucking 14. What hobo has a 14 strength, malnourished as fuck?
I mean, I feel like this is interesting. I was not prepared for this take at all.
Yeah, no, so I should have looked it up.
This is what you're getting.
I'm more mad at the use of vagabond, and like the vagabond has one of the higher intelligences too. Like, oh man, his dexterity is a 13, which actually kind of makes sense though. That makes a bit more sense. Vigor is a 15. That makes sense. Vagabond's gotta be pretty thrifty and nifty. But like a 14 strength.
Where are you getting these numbers from? Where are you finding all this stuff? This is fucking...
IGN has a whole class thing.
You are tickling the fuck out of me right now.
Yeah, no, they have a whole stat comparison list at the end of the one article. So I was looking it up.
Absolutely looking this up right now, like mid the conversation right now. This is live. I'm literally looking this up because this is a fucking
you have to scroll
trip.
Down a bit because they show the photos and stuff too, and also too some of the character designs as far as the initial. I'm not sure what they look like in the game. Maybe it's the concept art is just like stupid. Like the wretch is like bald and like, has a crop top. It's like, okay.
Well, and that's kind of
looks like an Inquisitor. But see, Confessor looks like an Inquisitor mixed with basically a traditional fucking rogue. Which one is he? It's up to you to decide. Like, it's fucking stupid.
Well, and that's where we get maybe into like a little bit, like you're talking about like the art style, for example. There's a consistent art style in I think all of their games. The only one that kind of stands out as being a little different is Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. But all the Souls games, which is fine because they're all in the same franchise. Bloodborne, similar art style. Elden Ring, from all the screenshots and everything we've seen, looks very much in the same vein of things, to the point of like, I would not be surprised if somebody told me they were literally just recycling assets. You know what I mean? Like, it seems very much the same appearance, and that's not necessarily bad per se, but you kind of have to like that style. You know what I mean? Like, for me, that's kind of like the World of Warcraft argument. You have to like the cartoony characters, or you don't. That's the style they've chosen. They've committed to that. It's not going to go anywhere. Some people love it, some people hate it, but like that's what it is. And I guess you're saying for you, like, it doesn't really resonate. It's not your thing.
It doesn't get me super excited. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not like, I don't think I'm gonna go out and run out to buy it this weekend. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I'm gonna sit there and wait to see some reviews. I'll probably wait to see what you say when you play it, or
I mean, I'm not buying it day one either, though. I mean, this is just as a point of being, I think, a cautious consumer. I won't buy anything until it's been out for at least a week.
Because also too, I feel like games like this though too, from the review standpoint, I feel like sometimes folks they're saying, like, Skyrim to me wasn't a great game. I think Skyrim pretty much sucks, straight up. I'm gonna get a lot of heat for it. I know that. It put me to sleep. I legitimately fell asleep multiple times reading that game, playing that game. But it's because your main character didn't have a voice, and I felt like it was still very linear, and even too like. It was kind of just all fetch quests, and it was pointless. I was just kind of like, there's nothing that's really keeping me involved in this. And I did then too, like, oh, here's a fucking massive ass fucking, troll or whatever those guys were, the giant titans. Why am I getting their names wrong?
What, in Skyrim? There are trolls. There are giants.
Okay, was it the trolls? I was trying the giants.
The actual giants, the ones, the mammoths that like
because they're right outside like, the main town you started, and it's just like, oh, cool. Let me go check over that, and you just get one shotted, and it's like, well, let me play 70 hours. I can come back over here and check out this spot, which is, oh, let me guess, it was a couple fucking berries. I'm so glad I wasted so much time to come back here, and there's nothing of like interest. It's stupid. Like, it makes me. And I think if my character could talk, if I could have had like sex with more than one woman, not just marry like one.
First of all, mods are a thing, bro. Like, you could have done that if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's I don't play on PC. Like, I like Fable because like Fable always is something crazy, and my Fable games always are crazy. But I also wasn't locked in. Of like,
You came in
it's
so
like
hot
there's
on this.
basically
I
only
wasn't ready for this at all. Wait,
one
wait, wait.
short.
Let
It's
me
like
okay. Let me address some of these points. Wait, first, Skyrim is a shit game. It absolutely is a shit game, and I will back you up on this, and I will take heat for this with you because it's very straightforward. And I was very pissed at how much they pulled from Skyrim compared to previous entries in the franchise. Right,
I like
Morrowind
Oblivion more
had
than I like
way more
Skyrim.
shit
I
going
enjoyed
on.
Oblivion a lot, actually.
Oblivion had a lot going on. Like Skyrim had like way less diversity of enemies, way less diversity, I thought, in terms of like weapons. Like I don't know that it did anything
And the whole
better. It was very stripped
if my
down.
stealth is up so high, I can literally just start a fight and then duck down in front of a guy and be like, "Where are you?"
I mean, at some point,
it's
I think
fucking
that's at some
stupid.
point I think that's okay in the sense of like, I want capstone because you're talking about there's literally a capstone ability that like when you duck, you temporarily go invisible, so you can duck down in front of anybody. And like, I want my capstone stuff to be impactful, but I don't want to be able like Skyrim's issue. One of them for me was like you could just grind abilities, stealth being one of them. You could just walk around, crouch the entire time, get those stupid high level fucking abilities while your character level was not very high at all. And then you're like, oh, look at me, like, ha ha ha, like you're a high level dragon or a lich or whatever. And I'm just fucking like up and down, can't, now you see me, now you don't, fucking peekaboo. I mean, so like, I agree with you, that's some bullshit. But I want to get back to your critique on the class system, because one of the things you critically failed to mention when you're pointing out these numbers and why they don't make sense is they have different starting levels. You're comparing a level 9 vagabond to a level 5 warrior. That's not a fair comparison. Right? Like
all the levels are the same, right?
No.
They're basically all like.
I think I've dug up this.
Sorry, the Vagabond and Hero were 9 and 7, whatever. That's not that much of a difference there.
But that's the point. You don't know. Like the stat growth between not like those two levels could be very impactful, especially 5 levels or 4 levels compared to the warrior. Like I think the idea is you start off weaker and that gives you some more customizability in terms of how you go with the character, because you're going to have more level ups to invest where you want them to be, less predetermined type stuff. So like it's a trade-off of early power versus late game customizability. So I don't know if I fully support your critique, because like if your argument is like, why is a vagabond stronger than a warrior? Well, because it's level 9. It's almost twice the level. Like, yeah, you give me 2 times the levels, my character's going to be stronger.
That also makes me mad then too, but your starting levels are also skewed. So a Vagabond starting at 9, but a Hero starting at 7, a Bandit's at 5, Samurai.
I guess it's based on the idea of like where it grows. Like you start as a warrior and then you can probably develop into a Vagabond. You can grow into a warrior. Like you could grow those ways like, if you wanted to.
A Wretch starts at level 1, but all 10s. Pretty much the way to go with it.
I mean,
because it's just like you can basically just do whatever you want.
That's exactly. So you've never played Path of Exile. This is exactly Path of Exile system in terms of like your starting class, quote unquote,
I think like,
determines your starting nodes and like what you have access to, and they do have one.
A samurai's dexterity is 15 at level 9. A prisoner's is only 14, right? Okay, and then like endurance is a 13 versus 11 for the same 2.
But like you're also missing, I think, the fact that this also comes back to what these games are in a part about with From Software is like the difficulty, right? You start as a wretch, you have no strengths, no weaknesses, it's 10s across the board. You're starting at level 1, so you're as low level as you can get. It looks like the lowest health as well of any of the classes. Like it's a very weak start. No magic, no armor, you only get a club. It's gonna be, you're going to have to be a very skilled player. That's difficulty beyond just the difficulty of the game itself or whatever you set it as. Picking Wretch is going to make the game harder. Picking a hero or picking a vagabond or a samurai or a prisoner, Confessor's a level 10 character, right? Like if you and I play the game on the same difficulty, but you start as a Confessor and I start as a Wretch, we're going to have very different experiences playing that game because those characters are starting at very different levels. You know what I mean? Like the Confessor is going to be a more well-rounded, grown character. He's level 10 already versus the Wretch who's level 1. Like it's part of the depth. I don't know. I think maybe, just maybe, this is one of those I would ask you to hold your opinion on until you've had a chance to experience the system. We'll see what we can do.
That is very fair. I haven't played any of their games, so to see how they do
I mean,
it.
this is
Yes, a fair critique for sure. I'm just more mad about the names and seeing the names and the comparisons and stats.
I just
I
think
just
it's
think
you really
maybe you
came in on
should
the
name them
names,
something
man.
different.
Fucking
Like I think
vagabond.
maybe Vagabond should basically be, I don't know, actual like hero class.
No, because I think a
Or
vagabond is a
warrior
grown-up
class.
bandit.
I
I
don't know.
think
Like
I'd have
it's
to look
just
into
kind of
this
like,
more.
prisoner maybe should be Prince, because that seems like more the skills line, not really a prisoner. She seems to be doing okay there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the numbers themselves are interesting
Or
now that I'm
noble, I
looking
shouldn't
at
say
them, and kind of
Prince.
the. I'm sorry.
Or noble, I shouldn't say Prince. It
Oh,
makes more sense.
well, because like the prisoner has a 6 in faith, which is the reported lowest starting faith amount. So like a prisoner who's lost his faith, there's a story there. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
so
there's
deep.
something behind that. An astrologer
Yeah.
who's a level 6 character has a 15 for his mind, and that's the highest of any of the starting classes as well. And again, like maybe there's a story there. So I'm hoping, but not convinced that the starting classes that we're talking about and the stats that are associated with them will have justification in storylines and stuff of like the background of these characters and stuff like that, like how they got to be where they are. Because it's, to me, it seems like one of those things where like you're jumping in to characters that kind of already exist. Like if you really want to jump in blank slate, it's a wretch. Like that's what you got to come in as, level 1 with like everything is a 10. Like you're coming in as a very fresh slate. We will see. This is going to be very interesting. We might have to do a follow-up discussion on Elden Ring whenever it comes out, if we decide to purchase it. If we don't decide to purchase it, I think I'm more likely than you are at this moment.
I will probably get it. I'm not going to rush out to get it. It's not on my list of first to buy. Wonderlands I will buy before I buy this game, because I like
Wonderlands.
Borderlands
Oh,
and I'm super
Borderlands.
excited to play that. Yeah.
Fair enough.
So,
Horizon.
how did I forget about that? We just talked about last week
Yeah,
too.
Horizon Forbidden West.
Actually, I still think I'll go Wonderlands over there for the kind of mood I'm in right now. I kind of just want to shoot them up, and I want to see how much they expanded Tiny Tina's Dungeon Keep or Dragon Keep.
Yeah, that'll be
That was one of the most
interesting.
fun things I ever played.
Really?
Like, DLC wise, it's amazing. I love the Borderlands franchise, and like it's just epitome of fun, man. It's kind of why I game out. You just kind of like turn your brain off, have fun, and like boom, there you go. Horizon, I'll get back into it. I'm sure I'll enjoy it, but if you
Well,
put a gun to my head right now and ask me which of those three I'm gonna have to buy first, I think Wonderlands would be it.
that's very interesting. Because I feel like my answer would be right now Horizon, because I feel confident in it being a solid game, a good game. But I also feel that of the ones we're talking about, it sounds like they did quality of life improvements. They cleaned up the combat system. Like they didn't reinvent the wheel. And not that you have to, but I think Elden Ring promises the most different experience compared to what I'm playing now. Might be the caveat for that, because like I'm playing things like Dishonored and stuff right now. I've replayed that. We'll see. I don't know. Food for thought
And not to
here.
be fair, I mean, if I had to probably rate all, Wonderlands would probably be like bottom as far as like masterpiece gameplay, which is
But it's
like
gonna
you can say
scratch the
ironic,
itch.
but like it's just when I game, I don't want to chill out. I don't want to think too much. I want to just relax. You know what I mean? I got to start a new gig. You know what I mean? I don't want to have a stressful experience. I want to be a prophet, fighting wrenches and shit. I don't want to have to sit there and fight fucking, robots and have to like take my time for 40 minutes hunting stuff. I just want to go in and shoot some shit and just, detox after work. So I just
Damn.
want to vegetate.
Oh, I usually get toxed as I'm playing because I can't work without too much going on. But yeah, I mean, Dynasty Warriors was always that for me. You know what I mean? Come home, just hack and slash, massive amounts of enemies, have fun, unwind, and maybe there's a conversation to be had too of like, do we need all these technical advanced games, or is there a place for just more casual play? Be that as it may, I feel like we have gone dramatically past our usual amounts of time on this.
We have,
Yeah, so we'll see.
Kind of like the Elden Ring episode.
Yeah, it kind of ended up being the bit of the Elden Ring episode. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like as a final product. But for everyone joining us at home and listening to us, we appreciate you coming in every week, listening. If you leave any comments or feedback, always welcome. Thank you very much. Especially, we'd like to hear what you're playing, what you're interested in, and what your take is on some of the issues that we're discussing around the games industry, where things are headed and what's going on with them, and any trends or things that you think we've either gotten wrong or that we haven't given enough attention to, both in video games, movies, comics at large. Maybe need to give them more comic love on the show, I think. But yeah, I think that's going to be a wrap for us this week in Spectator Mode.